30 seconds, Sally.
Let's talk. Hello, I'm Sally Gibney. Welcome to Let's Talk. I'm here at the studio for GNA TV in Sunderland, Vermont, and I have a wonderful audience here. Welcome. Well, it's 2013, a new year, a time when many of us make resolutions or perhaps set up new goals for ourselves. If you're anything like me, I start out with great enthusiasm, but as time goes along, that enthusiasm wanes. Well, my guest today is Chris Vanderzyden, and Chris is going to share with us some really neat points to help us keep those resolutions and make those goals. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chris. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's so great to see you, and I'm so happy you're here. And this is really, really a wonderful time for you to be here and help us out with our goals and our New Year's resolutions. Now, Chris, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am the author of the A to Z Blueprint for Success, and I'm also president of a promotional products company, Alchemy Promotional Products.
We want to hear about that.
And I'm a mom. I have 2 young daughters.
2 beautiful young daughters.
2 beautiful young daughters, and a husband. And
you're also a corporate cross-trainer, aren't you?
Corporate cross-trainer, yeah. I do consulting for corporations and for individuals, entrepreneurs in particular, and help them to cross-train core business disciplines with their professional and personal development.
Great. Yep. Now, tell us how you got to Vermont.
I lived in Los Angeles, was transferred with the company from the New York office to the LA office as a CPA with Coopers & Lybrand. And so I moved out to Los Angeles and was a real estate tax specialist, and did that for a decade. Was an asset manager and a CPA. And when high pressure, lots of timesheets, lots of corporate structure, and LA was an interesting time at that point. I lived there during the Rodney King riots, the O.J. Simpson, the Northridge earthquake. I had a murder on my lawn. I had all kinds of interesting things happen. Yeah. But all of those different things that happen in our lives create the momentum for us to evaluate and possibly make change, right?
And so you evaluated your life.
I did. So when I was in my early 30s and was ready to start a family, I knew that what I was doing in Los Angeles as a CPA and working the hours I worked, that I would not be an effective mother, and but I wasn't too concerned. I was ready to give up the corporate track, and so I jumped off the treadmill. I really made an evaluation as to what my life was like, and what I wanted it to be, and what my vision was, and the life I created in LA wasn't fulfilling my vision.
Wasn't the life that you wanted.
Right, and we all create our lives, right?
I think sometimes we don't realize that.
Yeah, we just go.
I think it happens, and we just kind of go along and don't realize that we're part of what we're creating.
We are wholly responsible for the life we create, absolutely.
Exactly.
But the great thing is that, like you said, New Year's resolutions, I mean, every year, every moment we have a chance to choose differently.
Which is really, really...
Now listen,
you are a triathlete.
I am.
How do you do that?
I'm a runner at heart, but I've been running for a long time, and when I got into my early 40s, I decided I wasn't going to be able to run forever, and so decided to give my body a break and added swimming and biking. So now I do
give your body a break. Do you believe that?
Yeah, give my body a little, my knees a break, right? And so I started doing triathlons, and I like having that goal.
So you train a lot, don't you?
I do. I train. Well, it's part of breathing for me. Going out and getting a breath of fresh air and exercising is something I do on a daily basis.
Yeah. It
fuels a lot
too.
of different needs.
And it clears your head. Now, tell us a little bit about your business,
Alchemy.
Alchemy. Yes.
Well, when I first moved here, I had been a senior manager, right? And I was on track to run the San Francisco office, and I gave it all up.
Wow.
And I didn't really look back, and I understood what I wanted, and I understood what I had in LA was not what I wanted.
What you wanted. Right.
So I moved to Vermont, gave up the career, had a baby. I thought I would be a stay-at-home mom and bake brownies. Now, for those that know my baking skills, that probably wasn't a good strategy.
But your intentions were good.
My intentions were good. I was trying out my new world. And so I moved here, and I met a really dear friend of mine, and she also had the entrepreneurial spirit. And so we thought that we would start a children's clothing line. So we had a prototype made of a cute hat. I think she still has it. And we were doing business plan, and we had a third partner. And so that didn't
happen.
It didn't work. She is a very enormously successful interior designer. So, and I went on to feed and try to discover what would make sense for me for a business.
You know, I started a business with two friends. It was a jewelry business, Gem Dandies, and it was the same kind of thing. You know, we all kind of were excited and got going, but it didn't take off.
Well, you know, that's all, you know, we all try things out and try to figure out what works and what makes sense. And so then I ended up consulting, interestingly enough. Somebody called me and asked me to be the controller for a company here. Somebody had gotten sick and they needed somebody to fill in. And so there was a need, and I said, okay, that sounds good. So that got me back into
the swing of things.
To doing work. And my daughter was a year old, so I ended up consulting as their controller for 5 years.
Wow.
So, which was fun. It was a great position. But then we were bringing in a new product line because they were having cash flow issues. This is what happens when people, something always happens that fuels a change, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Their cash flow was so crazy with the ups and downs. And so I went to the president, was close to him, and said, you know, you need to go to the old business standards. We need to make a widget that we can make for $1 that everybody needs, and we can sell for 10.
Wow.
And we need to even out this cash flow. So I came up with this new product line, and I was involved in introducing the product line. I was working with a marketing company. And what I discovered was that my finance background really fueled the business development. And the marketing company, I thought, as we all do when we try to do something new, right, I thought I could do it better.
Of course.
Right.
Well, don't we all?
I thought I could do it better. Well, it turns out I could do it better. So I started my business, and I started it out of my bathroom. I had a desk in my bathroom, and the girls would be napping.
What better place?
I think every woman should have a desk in their bathroom. It's the only piece we get sometimes.
That's right. It's the only place you can go.
It's the only place sometimes when you have little ones.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, gosh, it took me years before I could go to the bathroom by myself.
So anyway.
Right. Yeah. So what I would do is the kids would be napping, and I would go into my bathroom at my desk, and I would make sales calls. And that's how I started Alchemy. Now I've done millions of dollars in revenue since.
Wow.
That was years ago. And it really was something I just wanted to do so that I would have something to do and make a little bit of money, right?
That's right.
But I have this competitive thing.
Is that right?
I know.
I would never have guessed.
It's true. I have this competitive thing. And so I loved every time I sold something or got a new client doing the yes dance.
I did it,
so then I did more of the yes dances, and then all of a sudden
dancing all the time.
Then I was dancing all the time. And then I had this business, and then I had an assistant, and then so it just grew and grew.
Now you are an author of the A to Z Blueprint for Success. Now how did that happen?
Not with intent, Sally. Not with intent. There was no grand plan for that.
You mean that wasn't a goal?
I know. All of this always develops. Life just unfolds, and you let it happen, right?
Let it happen, yeah.
So I had my largest client for Alchemy asked me to speak at their national convention. They wanted a strong woman, and they had been a client of mine for years and years. So this was quite a few years ago now. So they asked me to speak, and I said that's fine. When I was at Coopers & Lybrand, I was part of the training team. I would teach newbie accountants the alternative minimum tax. So
teaching was a natural for you.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It didn't feel that foreign. So I said, sure, I'll come down and present for you. Well, I went down and presented, and there were several thousand of their sales reps at this meeting.
Just a small little meeting.
It was a small little meeting. It was fine with me because, there was no pressure. I was just there for fun, right? If you do something for fun, there's no pressure.
Exactly.
So I got up, had fun, gave them a little bit of information. Well, after, I had all of these people asking me questions. And there's a man who came up to me and said, well, where's your DVD series? And I said, I know, right? Where's your DVD series? And I said, oh, I don't have one. And he said, no. He was very insistent. I saw you before, and I know you had it, and I felt so bad. I said,
Yeah, that was
if I
something
had a DVD series, I'd give it to you. I swear to God, I would give it to you. I had nothing to give them. So apparently people liked what I had to say, and so the corporation asked me to come back again the next year, but they said to me, can you come back with something to give people? And I said, sure, I'll write a pamphlet, right? I'll write a pamphlet. I'll have something, So what I did was I started to blog, and what they wanted me to speak on was the various attributes that create success.
Wow.
So I thought, well, it's really easy as your ABCs, A to Z.
Yeah,
It's really easy, right?
Perfect.
It's really, success is not as hard or out of reach as everyone thinks it is. And the effort is usually between mediocre and great success is really about this much.
Yeah.
So I started blogging, and then, and this was, I had 10 months in advance that they told me, can you bring something? So right before the convention, I said, oh, well, I'll throw it in a book. And then by that time,
just like that,
I went to a convention, and Hay House has seen me and chose me to do a program for them. So I wrote this book. So that's what happened. So it was so that I could be of more service to others, really, and to have something to give to them. So there was no intent.
There was no intent.
Really. I mean, it just happened.
And
it's worked out great.
Now, what is a cross trainer?
Well, a cross trainer, people say coach, and coach would fit me, right, because of the athletic thing. But there's so many coaches out there, and what kind of coach are you? And I don't know. I felt adverse to that, and I really believe that you need to cross train. And I sort of cross trained my way to my life now, right? I was in Los Angeles, a big corporate gal, and then I moved to small town America. Started another company.
That's one thing, not to interrupt you, but I wanted to ask you, moving here, was it difficult? Many of us have relocated. So, and it's a real challenge. How did you find moving from LA to Dorset, Vermont?
Oh, I made huge changes. I'll say, and anybody who's made a change, and we all have at some point in our life, there's been that, right? Yeah. And so whenever you make a change, you feel the tension because you're out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And that, by the way, is a really good thing. When somebody tells me, a client tells me they're not comfortable, that's great
That's
stuff.
good.
That's good.
I want you to hear.
I want you to feel uncomfortable. I want you to feel the tension, because that means you're pulling into a new zone. It was not easy for me. I mean, I gave up a career. My husband, when we were in LA, he owned a company, a fairly large company, and he was gone, all day. And I worked, we left the house at 7 in the morning. We came home I ran after work. We came home at 8 o'clock. We went to dinner. We were city people, right?
Yeah.
We went to dinner at 9. I saw him about 10 hours a week. When we moved here, I was seeing him
all
every
the time.
day.
And that in itself is a big change.
Oh, God. I have such empathy for women whose husbands retire. I was 33 when my husband retired, right? Oh, dear Lord. So
I think we all can identify with that.
I know. And we call my husband, some of you may know,
and they're wonderful.
His name is
That
Carl.
has nothing to do with that.
We call him Poor Carl. Poor Carlton. He lives in a house full of women, and so 5 years of not working and my husband being there every single day. It was a little bit of a hiccup.
Time to get going.
Yeah. And boy, that was a real great impetus to get out there and work. And when I needed space, when I started the company, I'll just tell this quick story. When I started the company, we were sharing an office at home. And
Bob and I did that too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we were at a dinner party, and I can't remember whose dinner party it was. I don't know. We were at a dinner party, and somebody said to us, "You two are working at home together. How is that sharing an office?" Well, we were sitting opposite ends of the table. Carl looked at the person, I looked at the person, and I said, "Great!" And Carl said,
"No."
"Ugh." And I went, and everybody, and so all the other couples. Oh my God, bad question.
Yeah, bad answer.
I moved out on Monday. That was on Saturday. On Monday, I found an
out
office.
Of the office.
I moved out. I moved right out of the house. I brought the business. I rented a space above the Dorset Union Store, Ben Pelcher's. Right. This is 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Really?
I moved out. I came home and I said, "Well, I'm leaving." And I just came back. Actually, I just built an office last year, and I did come back. I'm now home again.
It's really, really,
yeah.
Which is great. So, we were talking about corporate cross training.
Corporate cross trainers. So it's the training or the advising or consulting people to cross train their disciplines for business, all of those good things that you need to do to make business work, your sales and marketing program, your fiscal, all of that, with your personal development.
Because if your personal development isn't in place, you
right.
can't do anything else.
Right.
Right.
You can have an awesome sales and marketing process. You could be selling an iPad, an iPod, an iProduct, right? That's going to sell on its own. You could have the hottest product in the world, but if your personal life is a train wreck, eventually it will bring your business down. It will. It will erode the efficiencies. It'll erode your profit. It will erode. So we do both. I do both.
So you're working with both. You're working.
I work with both. I'll do executive consulting, and we'll look at, for instance, what an executive is doing in a corporation, how he's running his leadership skills, and we'll look at the personal life too, and what is the impact on that and their ability, and also for entrepreneurs.
Right. Now, it's a new year, and many of us are setting our goals and making New Year's resolutions, and you know, they can be personal, they could be financial, they could be business, they could be whatever. Do you find that there's one particular area where people seem to be more successful if they have a certain kind of a goal?
The people that are successful in achieving their goals, whether it be the main goals that people pay attention to are relationships, business, financial, and health. Those are the main categories of goals. The people who are successful because there's an emotional attachment to the goal. So it's not extrinsic. You know, it's not I want to be, you know, financially successful because I want a new BMW. That is not going to be enough of a motivating factor. So when we get into the internal reasons or the emotional reasons as to why we want to achieve our goal, then you make real progress.
And they're more lasting.
And it's more lasting. You're more apt to really work through all of the obstacles. When the going gets tough, you won't drop the ball. Because it's so easy to just not need a BMW. Go for a Honda.
So how do we go about reaching our goals?
The first step in reaching your goals is really to have a clear, rock-solid vision. Really get out of the fog and pay attention as to what you want your life to be. When I was in LA and I had all of these factors that were happening, I was thinking about what I wanted, what really was my vision.
To you?
What was my vision? And so it's being clear on your vision of what it is. When I work with a client, I will ask them to come up with a vision statement to tell me. And those clients who work with me know that I don't want a statement. I want pages and pages and pages.
Really?
Detailed vision for your personal and professional life. I want you to tell me if you've got a picket fence in front of your house.
Now, you mean you just start writing and just write and write and write?
Yeah, be
Keep
very
writing.
clear on what your core values are, what's important to you. And then be very clear on what your expectations are, because when we have a vision, the universe will automatically try to fill that vision if it's very clear. So
Not if it's
you
foggy.
need to do it. Not if it's foggy. You have to be very, very specific. I want to live here. I want to make this much money. I want my business to be like this. I want to be a leader in the community. I want to be. You have to be very, very clear as to what you want. And a lot of people won't have it.
So
they won't know.
What happens if we're not clear? Sometimes we know we want some, but we're not sure what it is. How do we get to that vision?
I'm always amazed at how many people really are fogged up, and it's because we're at the mercy of our community, our family. You know, a lot of times we respond to what we think other people expect of us, as opposed to paying attention to what
many of us do that. Don't you think? I know I do. what are the expectations of others?
We're trained to do that. We're trained. Our public school systems do a great job of homogenizing us from the get-go, right? We go to school, they tell us where to be, how to be, what the expectations are. We have our family, we have different institutions. It's natural. I mean, as we go, you go into the corporate world, and the corporate world has expectations, and so you pay attention to that naturally.
So how do we get beyond that?
Peeling back the layers and trying to listen to yourself is really important. So when I'm working with a client and they say, gosh, Chris, I really don't know. I really have no idea what I want.
So it's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. And I'll say, pay attention to what you do want, or pay attention to what isn't working in your day. I mean, that's what I did in LA, right? I'm in LA, and everybody, my life is great. I'm married to the great guy who I divorced. I'm married to a great guy. right? I told you I made a lot of changes. I was married to a great guy. I was a senior manager. I lived near Beverly Hills. We bought a home at the age of 24.
Wow.
I looked very successful.
You were on track.
I was absolutely on track.
Yeah.
I was on track. We'd spend, the weekends on my ex-husband's parents' yacht going to Catalina Island. My life looked perfect from the outside.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't perfect. So I started to pay attention to what didn't feel good. So that's what I'll say, to peel back those layers. Pay attention to how you feel in every interaction with people, what you're doing, what feels right and what doesn't. And when you feel that vibration inside you, and you will, when you're doing something that is speaking to your bliss, if you pay attention, you will feel it. You will know that you are doing what you should be doing.
I would think the first step is paying attention.
Paying attention, being
how many we don't.
Be conscious
We're so
in your
busy
moment.
and
We're so
keep going.
busy.
Yeah.
Busy. And that's the other thing. I advise clients all the time. Every single day you need to have time to pay attention and to evaluate where you are, where you want to go. And we'll talk about that with the goals.
Okay, that's good. So, where do we go from here? How do we start? We think we know a vision. So what do we do next?
Once you have your vision, that's great.
All right.
And you should spend time knowing exactly what you want to do. And you should pay attention to all of those different quadrants, right? Your relationships, your health, your business, your finances, your personal, all of that. You have that all nailed down. You want to know, where you want to go. You know what your vision is.
And you take time doing this.
And you take a lot of time doing this.
Yeah.
And you do it, and you're very aware. Now, it's not set in stone. Your vision is never set in stone. That's,
It can change.
It's a moving target.
As you go along, things do change.
Yeah, kids grow up, right? And then all of a sudden we're in a different spot in life, so our visions change. But once you do know where you want to be at this moment, then you make an assessment of where you are. So your vision is your future. And what your goals will do is it pulls your future into the present.
So we're here, and our vision is here, so we have to fill in here.
The gap,
and
what I call the gap.
Okay.
So you have your future vision,
Right.
and you assess where you are in the present, then you fill the gap in.
And how do
the
you
gap
do
is
that?
your goals.
And how do we fill in that gap?
Right,
That's the big
right.
story.
So I'll use a business example because that's what everybody always asks me, is business questions. So you have a company and your sales revenue is $100,000. Well, I want to make $200,000. Okay, so your vision is $200,000. That's just a small portion of that big vision that you did, right? So $200,000 and you're at $100,000. Okay, we have a $100,000 gap. So our $100,000 gap becomes our goal. We want to obtain $100,000 more of revenue in 2013. So that's where you are, or your health. I love numbers, right?
Yeah.
I love numbers.
You're a number person.
So I'm 108, my vision is I see me at 110 pounds in a model. No, that's not good because that's not right. All right, I'm 180 pounds, but I really, health-wise, would like to be 150. Okay, we've got a 30-pound gap. So our goal is to lose 30 pounds, right? And then we'll get all the strategies and tactics to support that. Or my relationship. I'm single, lots of single women. I get that question too. Single woman. I would like to have a partner. Okay, the goal to find and identify a partner.
Or even for those of us who are married and you're so busy and you want to find time to be together, take time to be with each other, and that's a goal.
That's a great,
really
it's a goal. It's a goal. Carl and I typically have one night a week that we're together, so that we can finish a sentence, right?
Yeah. But it's something that you have to plan.
It is something you have to plan.
Because if you don't, the days and nights go by and
Right. At the beginning, I had too much of him, and then you have kids, and then you never complete a sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
So you make a plan. So this is where you are today. So yes, you be cognizant of the gap, and then you start setting strategies and tactics.
Okay.
Right.
Now, we have to be specific.
Yeah, goals. What are goals? And I always use the word SMART, right? The acronym SMART. So you want them to be very specific. So being a numbers person, I like to hear, pounds, percentages,
days,
anything, days, any measurement that will measure that goal. So you want it to be specific.
Right.
You want it to be measurable. Right.
What about attainable?
You want it to be attainable. So if your goal is to be, you know, Beyonce, and you happen to be tone deaf, that probably isn't a good goal.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it has to be obtainable. Or I want to, or I hear this all the time. So it says, well, I want to make $500,000 this year. Okay, well, how much have you made this year?
Well,
We've made about 25,000. Okay, well, that's not probably going to be attainable this year. Maybe
in the
we can do
future.
a 5-year plan,
Right.
but probably not this year. So let's make sure it's obtainable, meaning that it's within our realm of our
Possibilities.
abilities, our abilities, our personal abilities, our financial abilities, etc.
Okay.
So obtainable, relevant. It needs to be relevant to what your vision is. So anything that your goal, it needs to be relevant in support of your vision.
Great.
Right?
Okay.
And time bound.
All right.
You
And so,
need a deadline. You need a deadline.
and
right.
how do we go about doing this? How do you know, it's huge. The goal and
It
the
is.
vision is huge. How do
Yeah.
we get there?
You do. You want to take the time, and that's why people don't do it. They set a goal. It's New Year's Eve, right? It's January 1. It's the stroke of midnight, and we come up with a goal.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why January 15th we've given up.
Right. Right.
Goals are done with planning. You've got to have gut to it. There's got to be gut behind it. You've got to have planning. You've got to have a thought process. You have to have a blueprint for it. So for every goal, you need to have a plan supporting it. And you know that you've planned enough if someone else can execute it.
Ah, that's interesting.
So you need to have it written down. If I have a goal, I need to be able to give you that goal, and you need to be able to execute it for me in my absence.
Now,
Yep.
all of this that we're talking about is huge. How do we do this?
I know, chunk it down.
Ah.
Chunk it down, chunk it down. So you do your vision, you assess where you are today, you figure out where the gap is, the gap becomes the goal, and then you go and you get supporting strategies and tactics that are going to support that goal and are going to merge that gap, right, to bring your vision, your future into the present. That's achievement.
Okay.
So you need a series of strategies and tactics for every single thing. So and when I say a blueprint, I mean written down. My goal setting process, I do it for alchemy and I do it for my speaking and writing consulting business. It takes me about 10 weeks to do this.
Wow.
10 weeks. I start around October 15th.
So we should be patient with ourselves.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I think
Be
I'm one of
very
these people, I
patient.
have to do it right now, and if I don't do it right
Right.
now, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, they want to do it on New Year's
Yeah.
Eve at the stroke of midnight,
Oh,
and then they wonder why it doesn't work.
Well, at least by
Right.
the 4th.
Right, or by the 4th. And really, we should, in goal setting is not just to be done on January 1, right? You guys can leave today and go, okay, well, Chris has said, let's do the vision, let's analyze our present, let's fill in the gap. These are my specific goals for all of my quadrants, and these are the strategies and tactics that are going to support the goals.
Right.
But it's pages. I actually do pages, and clients pay me to help them do this because it is something that you want to spend time doing. If you have planning, you have a much better chance of success.
Yeah.
So
you have to have a guideline.
you have to have a guideline. So one of the great ways to figure out the strategies and tactics, you need to answer a few questions for yourself. What do you want to do? Okay, whatever that goal is. One of the great questions is, who do I need in my tribe or my support group, or
I like
what
tribe, don't
professional tribe? I've got a great tribe.
Yeah.
Who do I need? Who can support me and help me achieve that goal, right? What resources do I need? What do I need to bring in? What do I need? What am I lacking? What disciplines and skills am I lacking or don't necessarily lack but need to be sharpened? Am I not achieving my goals because I don't really have a great grasp on my time management?
I wanted to ask you about that scheduling.
Yes.
Now, you are
time
quite
management.
a scheduler, aren't you?
No, let me just, I'll
Okay,
talk about
I'm
that in
sorry.
a second. No, you're fine.
I'm excited.
Well, yeah, there's so much to talk about.
know,
That's
I
why
know.
your show
Go
is
ahead,
called
go
Let's Talk. And then the all-important question is, who do I need to become? Who do I need
Who
to
I
become?
want to become.
Who do I need to become?
Oh,
Who do I need to
okay.
become? Whatever my goal is, who do I need to become to achieve that? What do I need in my personal development, along with having a great sales and marketing strategy? You know, it's really integrated, right?
Right.
And then you go and you look at, once you figure out your goals, you can always say, what are my obstacles? We all know where we fail, don't we? Oh my gosh.
Well, it happens over
Everybody's
and over again.
so
you know?
good at failing, right? Everybody's so good at acknowledging our failures. And that's the other thing. Before you start your goals, what I do at the end of the year is I make a list, a gratitude list.
Oh, that's so important.
I make a gratitude list.
Is so important.
I like people to do it on a daily basis so
Yeah.
that they're really grateful. We do something in our home where we talk to our girls at the end of each day and talk about the best, worst, and funniest moment in our day. And it gives us a chance to assess our day.
You know, gratitude, if you're feeling good, write down on your gratitude list everything you have to be grateful for. And then when you're not feeling so good, check out that list.
Well,
it really turns the day around. It's
with
amazing,
the goals, I have my clients write every accomplishment they had that year.
Wow.
And that starts you on a good note, right?
Yeah.
This is all I've done this year.
We
So
feel
if
good
I've done
about
all
ourselves.
this,
Yeah.
well, of course I can achieve these goals. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I be able to? Look how spectacular I am, right?
Yeah.
Right? Everybody should feel that, right? And then when you come up against an obstacle,
You
right?
look at that.
And you're getting, because you will, we all,
We do.
it's never, you know, A to Z is not a straight line. It's very zigzaggy. It's very zigzaggy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So every time you come up an obstacle and somebody tries something happens and it tries to derail you, you go to your gratitude list and say,
and that
well,
can bring you right back.
right, if
It can
I
bring
have
you
been
right
able
back.
to overcome these challenges
Yeah.
and have succeeded in these areas,
Right.
this is why I can do this. This is why I can overcome this obstacle, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just wanted
10
to,
minutes.
you shared with me how you schedule. You all have to hear this. This is amazing. This
Oh
woman
God, what did
is-
I say? What did I say? Yeah.
Well, you have lists.
I am.
I mean, you are
know,
just such a
I'm
list
busy.
person.
I'm busy. So I'm really very good about scheduling my time. I am very cognizant of where I am on a daily basis. If I'm with my family, I'm with my family and I'm focused there. If I'm in my office, I'm focused in my office. If I'm with a client, I'm focused on my client. So the first thing is to be present wherever you are and choose wisely. Choose how you spend your time. There's only so much time, and our greatest asset, right? Our time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Unfortunately, it's not unlimited, right?
Yeah.
It's our most limited resource, our time. So I'm very aware of how I spend my time and who
Now, what
I
about-
choose to spend it with.
Exactly. And what about the to-do list?
Oh, yeah.
This you have to hear this.
This is what I do, and people ask me this all the time. What is there is an app, 30/30 app. If you have a challenge with getting sidetracked and spending too much time on one particular project, there's a 30/30 app that you can program in and say, okay, I want to spend this much time reviewing the financials, and then 30 minutes, and it'll zang you, and then you got to move on to the next project. So there's a lot of different things you can do, but I use Google Calendar, and I use Google Docs. And so what I do, and the reason I use that is I can access it anywhere. I can access it on my
that's a good
iPod,
idea.
my phone. I can access it anywhere. So I keep a running list of everything that needs to be done, and it's my goals, my strategies, my tactics, right? So I have a list. I know what needs to be done this quarter, next quarter, the following quarter, and then it gets chunked down. The quarter,
What about
this is the
days?
month.
Yeah.
These are the days. I schedule my days. I've got, very busy days. Those are real focus days. I may be speaking. I may be presenting or working with a new client. Those are real focus days. Then I have buffer days where I need to sign checks for the
Oh,
company.
that's nice.
or return phone calls, But I schedule, and then I chunk it down to day to day. So I have my top 5 that must be done before I close the day. Every day, top 5 must be done, and I try to do those first thing, so that I'm not closing my day at 10 o'clock at night, right after the kids go to
But
sleep.
you do get those done.
But I do get my top
See,
5
that's a
done
good
every
idea.
single day.
That's a very
I get
good
my top
idea,
5 done,
right.
and all of those, the top 5s have to be really key elements to move me forward in one of my goals. It could be a sales and marketing strategy. For Alchemy, we're launching a new marketing plan. It's going in the mail tomorrow. We have a drip marketing system that'll be going out. So that is
That's
one
what
of my
you're
top 5s today. That will happen today before I close my day. So I have my top 5, but I schedule everything. I schedule when I run, and I give myself time to run. People will say, I don't have time to exercise. You can't afford not to exercise. You can't afford not to. If you don't have the time now to be healthy, you will have to spend the time later being ill. I guarantee it.
It's true.
So you might as well spend a little bit of time every day.
Being
right?
good to ourselves.
Right?
It
Being
is.
good to
It's
ourselves.
so important.
And
It's
it doesn't
so
mean you
important.
don't have to go out and run like I do in
No,
bitter
but just
cold or
something.
whatever. Just something. And some time to yourself, some time to think and to be creative. When you give yourself time and permission to relax and to think quietly, we become more productive.
Let's take a few questions. Who'd like to start?
Thank you, Chris, of course, for your insight on how successful you have become and are. My question is more about how to implement a few of these things and not being a computer guru. Do you need to have that particular background in order to get it all written down, or?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
No. And I like pen to paper. I'm a pen to paper person as well. And when I actually use a big spreadsheet, and I can give you one. And I write everything down in pencil. I work on it. When I do the vision, I write it pen to paper. So I don't always do everything electronically. It helps me with time management just because I'm not always in my office in front of my calendar. But yeah, it's just more of a detail and writing that blueprint down for your steps. This is what I'm going to do, and chunking it down so that it's very manageable portions. So you're not overwhelmed. It's very easy to get overwhelmed when you're trying to get from A to Z, right? It can be overwhelming.
If you look at the whole picture,
Yes.
it's huge. But when you break it down, into different little things,
manageable
makes
portions.
a big difference.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I schedule my days so that I'm like from 8 to 10 I'll write. From 10 to 11 I'll return phone calls or make phone calls. I'll run from 11 to 1. And then in the afternoon, so my most creative and intense work is usually done in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'll go off into administrative. So I chunk it down so I know my top 5 are going to be done in the morning. The things that are hardest, do in the morning, but make it easy on yourself. Just chunk it right down.
Yeah.
I mean, if losing weight is your goal, I always tell people, okay, do it, focus on it one day at a time. This is what I'm going to do in one moment at a time. This is what I'm going to do now. This
Everything
is what
is so much easier.
I
when
want
you
to be
break it
healthier.
down.
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
going to start with breakfast, and this is what I'm going to have. Okay, I'm going to try to get out and walk for 20 minutes. Okay, now I've done that, and then reward yourself. There has
I was
to be
just
a
going to
reward.
say, I like that. Reward yourself.
There has
Yeah,
to be a
that's
reward for every,
very
and
important.
not just the end zone. Not okay, I want to go from 100,000 of revenue to 200,000 of revenue. You don't reward yourself just at the 200,000 level.
Yeah.
You want
Every
to
step of the way.
You want to reward yourself as you go on, and I use a goal assessment sheet, and we're just revamping my website is going to have a lot of these templates, and you can download it for free. And that goal assessment, and I use it. So every day on Monday, I'll have my list, and I check to see how I did. Well, at the end of the week, of course, there's not going to be a check every day that I'd like a check. But if I've
you
gotten
can see
5
where
out
you've
of
been
yeah,
and where you're going.
right, and
that's
you make an
really
assessment.
important.
It's all about assessing your progress. You know, that's the thing, is not to give up on your goals as you go along, is to make an assessment as to what's working and what's not, and tweaking it along the way. Saying, okay, well, this is what I thought I would do to achieve this goal, but that didn't really work for me for whatever reason. So you tweak it and redo it. It's just like a race.
Yeah.
You know, pre-race you prepare.
You know, congratulate yourself when you do something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, to let yourself know that
Exactly. Chunk it down. I always
like
say chunk
that.
it down.
I like that. Yeah. Who else? Oh.
Two things, actually. The first thing that really struck me that you said was all of the things that happened to you when you were living in LA, and how that, when did you really start to have your antennae twitch that the message for change was really coming through to you? Because I think that's so important, how we pick up on change.
Exactly. I mean, being cognizant and aware that there needs to be a change. The first step to changing your life is recognizing that it needs to happen, right? And when I was working, I was beholden to the corporate world. My whole life was centered around a timesheet. Literally, it sat next to me. I couldn't go to the pivotal moment. I had to go to the bathroom one day. And I had to figure out what client I was going to bill for my bathroom break. And I thought, this is nuts, and I want to have a baby. Right? How am I going to do this? So, but also the realization that we create our own reality, right? We create our reality. So I wasn't looking around my world saying, I'm living amongst chaos. Although I did say I'm living amongst chaos, but I really was really in tune with how I created that and how I let my life be amongst chaos.
We do allow
I made
it to
that
happen.
decision.
We do.
I made those decisions. I created what I had. So when I realized that was really pivotal in knowing that I needed, and I made big changes. I did leave a marriage. I left a corporate environment. I had a murder on my lawn. That was a real good impetus.
That would do it.
Yeah, that would do it. That would do it. That would do it. And I lived in a really nice area too.
Yeah.
The second part too is that you said there's about that much difference between mediocre success and between, shining success.
That's right.
So can you talk about that and the recognition of that piece?
Yes. The difference between mediocre and the difference between success is very little effort. And usually what holds people back from reaching that success point is some fear-based reason. And I'll work with clients to try to uncover and peel back, what is that fear? What is keeping you from doing exactly what you need to do to get that tiny little step? Most people are so creative. And they're so successful and they're so capable, but there is something that's keeping
Holding
them from
back.
going that little bit.
That piece.
It's usually
that little
fear.
piece. Yeah.
It's some fear-based
Fear
reason.
is huge,
typically.
I think.
Typically.
I think
yeah.
fear is huge.
an example?
Story from your annals of...
Right.
Yeah.
right. Well, I really feel that, going from myself, jumping, there were so many reasons not to leave LA. I had so many. I mean, people thought I was nuts. I had a girlfriend who took me out to lunch and thought I was on drugs. Really, you're leaving this great guy you're married to and your career and you're up for partner, and you're going to leave and you're going to go to Vermont? Really? Do you know how crazy that sounds to people?
Oh, of course.
God, I love living in Vermont, though. Oh, wasn't but there were all these fear-based reasons not to do that. But I truly knew in my heart
had to do it.
that I had to do it. And if you listen to yourself internally, you will know when you're making the right decision.
And I think listening to ourselves is so important.
It's so important.
We have a question back there.
Hi, Chris. I'm fortunate enough to know you, to know who you are, to know how you work, and you're a wonderfully concrete and sequential thinker.
Yes.
What is your suggestion for those of us who are maybe a little more random and abstract, who loathe the idea of working off of spreadsheets, who just don't think the way you think? Because the truth be told, I would probably rather shave my head with a cheese grater than work on a spreadsheet.
That is so true. And it is so true. We're all so different. And I'm very systematic. I'm very methodical. I want to know that I'm going to get this much accomplished in a day, know. But we're not all like that. And the creative people, I mean, it really wouldn't be good for you to be, it would be maybe possibly dangerous for you to be sitting there in a cubicle or at a desk, right?
Yeah.
So when it's like that, then you want to, a lot of times it's great to voice it. So if you have a partner, being more verbal and putting it out there, you could also draw it, your vision, right? You could draw your vision, you could do it in a creative way. And then when you're trying to get through your strategies and tactics, you could work with somebody. Most often it's good to work with people. I have many of my clients who work with me as a consultant or as a cross trainer for them. They do it for the very reason. They will say, I'm doing this because you hold me accountable. You hold me
Being accountable
accountable
is huge, I think.
You hold me accountable, and I can drill it down so they can speak to me and tell me what their desires are and what they want to achieve. And then I'll detail out the steps and figure out that gap for them, and then figure out a structure for them. So you really need to pull somebody in to help you do it if you're like that.
Okay,
So.
thank you. And we had
It's a good
another
question.
question.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Sally. You are so inspiring, just such an inspiring speaker,
Oh, well, thank you.
both of you. This is terrific. And my question sort of piggybacks on the one we just had. I'm a musician, and scheduling is very difficult for me. I have to schedule my whole life around when I have rehearsals, when I have not. When I don't have that, it's like a free day. And yet, if I do schedule a day, time for exercise, time for practice, time for paying the bills, do the dishes, there's so many interruptions that happen. The phone rings, the plumber's coming, this. And I guess I'm learning as well that I need to accept those things as happening.
Yep.
And I'm master of my own time, which I know and believe, but have a lot of difficulty accessing that. And scheduling is just like, I've been told before, schedule this. It's like, it's very, very difficult, I suppose, partly because when I'm on somebody else's schedule, be here for this concert, be here for this rehearsal, no, you can't go home for break. And then when I'm on my own, it's different. And my second question is, when you're talking about planning financially, or planning when you have a partner, a business partner, a relationship partner, whatever, it takes both of you to have the desire to do this, to make the business plan. And I wonder if you might address that as well.
Yeah,
that
Thank
can
you.
be a big challenge.
That can be a big challenge. And you see that in partnerships a great deal. But let me first address your time management issue. And time management is such an issue that I think it's a chapter in my book.
Yeah, it's huge.
And you can go to my website and read my blogs on time management too.
Excuse me, but talking about time management, I think we're coming down to the time. So let's answer our questions, and then
Great.
we'll have to.
So with time management, one of the things I'll tell you real succinctly is that we have a tendency to be of service to others, which we want to be. But in serving ourselves, we serve others. So the ability to say no is important. When you get on an airplane, right? What is the first thing they say? If you are going down and you are traveling with a child, please put your oxygen mask on before the child.
Yeah.
And that to many of us, that is really counterintuitive for us to take care of ourselves. It really is, right? Especially for women, my women folks, for sure.
Absolutely.
So by taking care of yourselves and having the ability to say no, it ultimately will be of service to others. So you have to guard your time. And I'm very careful with how I move through my day, and I will avoid going to get coffee at certain places because I only have literally 5 minutes, and I always want to be polite and always want to chat.
And
whatever.
you are.
But I have practiced things, for people to exit from a conversation, to exit from a situation. I guard my time, so you have to really come up with strategies to do that. Don't answer the phone certain hours. I only take phone calls between 10 and 11 in the office for Alchemy.
Yeah.
And then I have to, if you don't get me at that time, I've got to return it later.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very, very strict on my time.
Focused on that, and I think that's something that we can all learn from.
It will drain you. Your time management is so key.
Yeah.
And your other question?
When you have a partner.
When you have a partnership and it doesn't, and the partner isn't.
You're not on the same page.
That's sort of like marriage, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not always on the same page, marriage or partnerships in business.
Right.
It's really difficult, and that comes down to real communication. So being very clear on your needs, communicating them effectively, and having the understanding, and coming to meeting of the minds, right? Why this is important.
And listening.
And I have a chapter on communication too in the book.
Yeah.
But
Is there
really
any other, one last question? I think we have covered so much, and I'm sure everyone is sort of like taking all of this in. And it's now, Chris, tell us now, anyone who wants to learn more about you and what you're doing, and all of these little things that you've shared with us. How do we go to your website? What can people do?
Right. I have a website, and on my website you can sign up for my newsletter.
Oh, yeah, and it's great.
So
It's
I do.
absolutely
I
great.
send out a newsletter. It's free. Also, if you sign up for the newsletter, I think you get an audio download of my 7 tips of success or something. And I think there's time on that, time management. But you can go there. Also, we are upgrading the website, and there will be some downloads, some tools that you can use to help you
Which is great.
in setting your goals. And I have a workbook that as it turns out, the book ended up being this is the workbook. I wrote this book for this client, right? And then I had an insurance company who actually just used the book as a training model for their executives. And so I'm using the workbook because I do corporate workshops on A to
Which is
Z, Blueprint for Success. So
Tell me about Jeff's book.
Oh, and Jeff. On the cover of my book, many people have asked me, Jeff Hazlett endorsed my book. Jeff is the author of Running the Gauntlet. It's a best-selling book. He also wrote The Mirror Test. Jeff, people know him because he was Donald Trump's judge on Celebrity Apprentice for 3 seasons. So
Oh my goodness.
Jeff Hazlett is in my tribe, and I do have I'm part of a thought leader group, an accountability group, if you will. So we meet quarterly and keep ourselves accountable, and Jeff is our fearless leader in that group. And this is a great book.
It's a wonderful book.
He's
Absolutely.
a cowboy, 6'3", if you can picture this, 6'3", 280 pounds.
Wow.
No, 6'5", 280 pounds. And this book is fabulous because it is a business book, but he's a cowboy. And he talks in cowboy language. And it is, I mean, I read a lot of business books, and the way I got to Jeff Hazlett, I got to cahoots with him. Somebody recommended his book. I read it on my way to a meeting. I was getting on a plane. I finished it in one night. The next morning, I wrote him an email because he has a meeting in New York. I figured, what's the
Why
worst
not?
that can
Why
happen?
not?
He'll delete me. I won't even know if he deletes me, right? So I sent him an email and I told him I'd love to meet you. I do some work on strategy, and I'd gallop my way down to New York.
Don't you love it? Don't you love
So
it?
this is what I wrote. So I sent it to him. Well, I didn't go in. I had an assistant who met me in Chicago, and I told her I was doing this, and she said, well, don't send the email now because you're going to be in meetings all day and you won't be able to respond. So I didn't. I sent it the next morning. I sent it at 8:23 in the morning. 8:37, he responded, said he'd love to meet with me. At 8:42, his assistant emailed me to schedule a meeting. By 8:47, I had a meeting with Jeff Hazlett in New York.
See that? So never hesitate. Never
Right? No
hesitate.
fear, right? There's
Exactly.
why have the fear? What are they going to do? Say no? Seriously?
And
Are you going to say no to me?
How important is that? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, really?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Chris, this has been absolutely so wonderful. I thank you so much for coming, and I mean, I just totally enjoy. Hasn't this been wonderful? Thank you, great. You really have been.
Thank you all
Yeah.
for coming.
And thank you all so much for coming. It's just so great that you've been here, and I hope you keep coming to our next shows. And it's been really a joy. Thank you. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And as Chris said, you can go to her website, Chris Vanderzyden at .com. Just
my name,
.com. And you can download all of this wonderful information. And for all of you out there, be good to yourselves and be gentle to yourselves. Remember that you matter, because you do. And tell everyone around you that they matter. Your husband, your spouse, your children, and perhaps a stranger. Have a great day. Till next time, see you later.